Cafe Networking podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Rioch, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Joining us today from Phoenix, Arizona is Wynne Charles, CEO of A Disability Podcast, conversations about disability awareness, celebrating all women that have disabilities. Wynne is also author of two books, I Win and View from the Heels. That's Heels. So Wynne, how do you achieve your dreams with a disability?
Oh, I try everything, Tom, and see what sticks, and then I do what doesn't stick to the wall.
Well, you do a lot.
Yes, I live doing a lot. I started being a solo entrepreneur in 2010, and then I gave that up to write books after losing my mom I started being an entrepreneur in 2006 and then gave the artwork up to write books and do motivational speaking in 2010 after losing my mom.
Well, you have a speaking career. You're out and about speaking at schools to people.
Oh yeah. And the one thing I didn't realize is that this little green monster and the reason why I call my podcast Little Green Monster Behind the Scenes is because the national color of cerebral palsy is green. And so I thought, oh, this will be a fun side project. After I wrote I Come Win, I didn't think that the little green monster would turn into the big green monster that I can't control now.
Well, then you have become a CEO.
Yeah, by accident.
And that's obviously not only in the States, out here in the world. Persons with a disability, I don't want to say they've always had challenges, but it seems to be even more challenging.
Oh yeah, it is. It is, but it's gotten better over time. You mentioned that I'm sitting in Phoenix, Arizona at this very moment, and I am blessed enough and lucky enough to have my own condo in Phoenix, Arizona. That move was made in 2020 and 2021 because after I lost my dad in 2019, what did I do? I sold his house. I wanted to sell the house in 2010 after my mom died because I knew that big house, Aspen, Colorado didn't mix.
Right.
So, and disabilities don't necessarily mix in Aspen, Colorado either. So I thought, okay, the day he actually got diagnosed with cancer, I told a little white lie to my stepsister at the time. I said, I'm back at the hotel doing homework, which was true, but I had gotten up super early to finish that homework, and then I didn't want to go deal with a cancer diagnosis because I knew in my heart he had cancer due to the I love yous were getting weaker, and I knew in my heart that he did have cancer, and so I didn't want to deal with Mr. Charles, you have cancer, and all these doctors walk in, and then I didn't want to deal with that. So what I said to my stepsister is, I am doing homework back at the hotel. Which I'm still trying to work on, I was working on a journalism degree at that time. And then I said, you tell my dad, because he automatically asked, which I knew he would, where's Win? And because he was tracking my whereabouts, he knew I was down there. He knew that I was with them. So I came up with a little white lie saying that I was doing homework, which was true. But in the time of he's getting diagnosed with life-changing terminal illness, one of the decisions that I made, because I thought about this, he was either going to come back permanently disabled and live an extra 2 years or whatever, or he was not going to make it.
Right.
And I knew that he was not going to make it. I knew that it was stage 4. I knew that it was stage 4 in my heart, just the way he was saying weak I love yous and everything else. So by the time everyone got back, I had told me the diagnosis. They finally told me the diagnosis, and I was 100% right, and in my heart. And so by the time everyone got back, I had made the decision to sell the house in 2019. May, the week of Mother's Day in 2019, he got diagnosed, and then he died on May 19th, 2019, 6 days after diagnosis. Yes, 6 days after diagnosis. That's a whole different story in itself.
No, but those stories are part of disability awareness that you talk about. You have a person who has a disability has multiple challenges.
Yes.
And what you just mentioned were even more challenges because they involved the family. They involved persons who could have been a caretaker. You're in a situation of having to be a caretaker. And so, there's so many things. And back to the point that we're talking about mobility.
Yes.
So you need in your reevaluation of your own situation, looking to your future, which we're talking about today.
Yes.
Life goes on.
Life goes on. And I knew I took care of my dad for 9 days, 9 days before he got officially diagnosed, because he went into the hospital. Of course, my local hospital in Aspen, Colorado, couldn't diagnose lung cancer, nor could the bigger hospital in the next town over. Actually, the bigger hospital in the next town over, which is Glenwood Springs, said, this is way out of our scope.
Right.
You need to get diagnosed 4 hours away, which is in Denver, Colorado. So I took care of, we finally decided as a family that with him being so grumpy about it, we decided as a family that he should get kicked back into the hospital. And, well, the night we tried to kick him back into the hospital, he was 30 minutes away. The hospital in the next town over said, this is way out of our scope. He needs to be admitted here for 1 night and then transferred. Well, because he didn't want to do medevac. I did not know a patient could refuse medevac. I thought, in all my wisdom of hospital stays, I thought that once they say medevac, the patient has to say yes, medevac. No, apparently not. Apparently not, because my dad got to do the ambulance ride for 4 hours. And I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. And so I'm like, well, and then he went into the hospital. He got the biopsy. We came down to Denver, which again is 4 hours away. And then they said, you have cancer. By the time he died, people were calling us, and oncology was actually calling my stepmom and saying, by the way, do you know that your fiance had stage 4 lung cancer?
Wow.
And we're like, no. We knew he had cancer, but we knew it was cancer for the lungs, but we didn't know that it was stage 4 lung cancer. And when my stepmom told me that, she sits me down at my dining room table at the time. She's sitting across from me and says, by the way, your dad had stage 4 lung cancer, which I kind of knew because the weekend I love to use. And she says, are you okay with this news? And gives me a kiss on the top.
Are you okay?
Are you okay with this news? And gives me a kiss on the top of the head. And that's what a lot of people don't know. And then fast forward to June 23rd, which is the day after my birthday, I get emotionally and physically abused. And yeah, that was fun. 85% of women with disabilities get emotionally and physically abused. The rates are higher for the disabled than, So needless to say, I was born with cerebral palsy in 87. The reason why I wrote books, the reason why I'm continuing to write books, and the reason why I'm hosting a podcast is because my mom, she didn't have all this stuff when I was born in 87.
And the stuff, I'm looking at your site, and so the stuff that I see, and I want to commend you on what you're doing. And it says here, your mission is to help others with physical and mental disabilities to find their voices through written or spoken word using today's assistive technologies. But that's, I think, what's new or what's different is access to technology. But again, people need, it's easy to say people need to learn, but if people have disabilities in speaking, if they have disabilities and can't write, that's a challenge just to learn. So that's where you come in, of helping.
Of trying to help. And the reason why I started all this is because my poor mom, she barely had support groups. And looking back on it, my dad had guilt about me having a disability. She tried to drag him to support groups. He said, oh no, I won't go to support groups for my child, oh no. So he had guilt about me having a disability. God love him, God love him, but he gave me my health, but he did have guilt with me having a disability.
Well, I don't want to say that's understandable, that's a fact. Any person, any parent that has a child or had a child that had a disability, the guilt factor is there. But as we said, life goes on. What you are doing are dealing and leading with persons who have the challenge. So it's not only persons with disability. You also talk with people who are parents of persons who have it. Is that true?
I do, and I talk with the average Joe who's able-bodied, based around everyday life with disabilities. I mean, I talked to a gentleman who was put in a mental institution for at 90 years old. I talked to a gentleman who was in the army. I've talked to caregivers. I've talked to psychiatrists. I've talked to ex-cops. And so I try to bring awareness to everyone.
Well, you talk to everyone, so that's a classification. Who do you talk to?
Yeah.
Everybody, and you try
I
to
talk
help
to
everybody.
everyone about disability awareness.
So win, and win is a winner. How can our listeners find you?
They can either Google my name or go to a CEO of a disability at webelieve.com, or just Google my name, or just type in a CEO of a disability anywhere you listen to podcasts, and it will pop up, and
Well, you talk to everyone, and you are everywhere, so.
I try to be everywhere. So
I want to thank you for being here and sharing your story.
thank you.
And again, for our listeners, it's Win Charles, and it's W-I-N. The last name is C-H-A-R-L-E-S, Win Charles. You'll find her at her site, which is ceoofadisability.weebly.com. She's also on TikTok, LinkedIn, and again, Google Win Charles, W-I-N-C-H-A-R-L-E-S, and she's in Phoenix, Arizona. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at focusmi.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Cafe and Networking Podcast.